then here's where this all finishes. What I would do then is I would start taking the first baby step. And each time you knock a baby step off the list, what I want you to do is give yourself a reward, because that reward will drive you to the next one on the list. And keep doing that. And then hopefully after you've done, say, 4 or 5 big ones, maybe you go to a comedy workshop. The last one of stepping on a stand-up stage seems so much smaller than when you looked at it at the beginning.
Right.
But here's what happens. Then you try to get on that stage. After going through all of that, Lorraine, you're probably going to know if it's your passion or one of your passions. And if it's not, here's the cool thing. So people say, well, that could take me 2 months. Yeah, it could. But here's the good news. You're doing something you put on a list that you thought you'd love anyway. You're learning a new life adventure anyway. So if it turns out it's something you didn't like, you had a great experience. If it's something that you end up loving, you found your passion in 2 months versus, just so you know, the numbers I've heard is that most people will go their whole life without finding their passion, and only 5% of people in the world typically find their passion. Those are the statistics I've heard. So if you could find yours in 2 months, and most people can't in their whole life, wouldn't it be worth building a list and taking the steps? So
absolutely. And I think that I love providing tools for the listeners out there, and that is a great tool because you reversed engineered it for us. Believe it or not, I used to love to speak to my, I get all my friends in a gym and speak to them, get in front and speak. And I do a little comedy in front of them too. But if you go back to your childhood, I think there's a lot of clues. So this was invaluable, what Corey just went through. And if if it was quick, then go back and listen to it again, because I believe, and I think Corey does too, and I'll ask him, but I believe everybody has a passion, and we can lull ourselves into sleep. And like he said, only 5% discover their passion. Don't you want to be one of those that discovers your passion before? Like I say, it's never too late. So do you believe everybody can have everybody has a passion, Corey?
You know what's funny? I do believe we all have. I tell people I don't think it's something I say find, but I really think it's something you uncover, because I think it's already there. I mean, if I'm saying go back to your childhood and say what was the hints, it's already there somewhere. So I believe it's like an onion. You're taking the layers off. So yes, I do believe everybody has probably multiple passions that they just have to uncover. But the funny part is, I'll even say I think the people that hate the word passion now still have a passion, even if they don't agree with the idea of finding it. They still have something.
Right. And I love that. I love that word picture of it's like a peeling an onion. And that's exactly what it's like when you go on that journey to discover it. It's going to take a while. Like Corey said, if you did it in 2 months, that would be fabulous. But there are tools that he went over and tips that were very helpful for finding your passion. So that is my hope and prayer for all of you out there, that you find your passion. That was great. Now, you speak also on the law of action. Yes. Often, how does that relate? We often hear about the law of attraction, but what do you mean by the law of action, Corey?
Well, I'll tell you, this is such a big thing to me that in my, I'll say my newest book, which is called The Book of Why. You know, we were talking about the why. So in that book, I dedicated a section to this because I thought it was such a big thing. And so the easiest way I can sort of present this is using the term The Secret. You know, so many people are familiar with The Secret book and The Secret DVD that came out that changed, you know, millions of lives. You know, it impacted millions of lives. You know, whether or not all those lives changed, it still impacted them, which means it still changed them in some way. And the one thing that I think, I don't want to say it got wrong, but the one thing I think it left out, and I'll tell you, I'll back this up in a second with people that were in The Secret, but the one thing that it left out, I feel, was how do you actually take action? So I had so many people I knew that watched The Secret or listened to The Secret, more so the ones that watched it, said, I'm going to change my life forever now using the law of attraction. And then I would say to them, how? And I would say, I'm going to visualize. Okay, but what are you going to do to bring it into your life? Well, by visualizing, bring it into my life. And they were just thinking of the magnet side of things. But I'm like, I tried to explain to people this way. I used an example in the book that I want to share the bill with a world-class speaker, and I forget which year it was, but let's say it was 2013 or something like that. And I hadn't, what I did was I made a list of the 10 speakers I wanted to share the bill with. Well, that year, the speaker I put at the top of the list was Deepak Chopra. And I looked at his website, I looked everywhere, and he only had one public event the whole year where other speakers were on the bill. And it just happened to be in my neck of the woods. I reached out to the organizer. They had already booked all the speakers. And so basically I was out of luck. But what happened was one of the speakers canceled with whatever amount of notice, and she really liked the idea of my talk, so she brought me in. I ended up speaking, sharing the bill with him. My point of that story is, what if I wouldn't have built a list and reached out? What are the odds that she didn't know me from a hole in the ground? She already was full. What are the odds I would have got that last spot if I just put it on a vision board?
Right.
So my point is, I think you need to practice the law of action with attraction, and the law of action to me is the how-to. So it's the what do you do to draw this into your life? How are you going to make sure that you're actually standing on the path if it comes down that path? And so for me, what I talk about in the book is I talk about how do you practice those actions. So I gave an example, like I'm all about, I won't just put something on the vision board. I'm actually going to say, now, how am I going to do this? So a great example is I'm working on a documentary right now with a really big name author. And I've interviewed about 40 really well-known influencers. And I put a vision board up about it. But if I would have just put the vision board up and said, they'll reach out to me soon, none of it would have happened. I had to reach out to one of them. Now, was it worth it? The people on that list that I could share, Les Brown was one of them, Bob Proctor, Lisa Nichols, Jack Canfield. Was it worth reaching out to them and securing in-person interviews? Of course it was. But I wouldn't have had those things happen. And people always say to me on Facebook, you're so lucky you get to meet all these people. And I'm like, if you only knew how much work went into becoming lucky, it's the work behind it. That is the action. So I hope that explained it, but that's to me what the law of action is you're putting in the actual work. And I'll finish it by saying this too, Lorraine, is within the same documentary I mentioned, we've had the fortune of interviewing 5 people in The Secret that were featured in The Secret. Almost, I'm going to say 4 out of 5. I won't reveal which one didn't say it. 4 out of the 5, when I asked them, do you think there was anything missing? All said the same thing. They all talked about the action was missing. And so Lisa Nichols, she visualized it almost like the onion you mentioned. She visualized it, explained it better than, not better, but it put it in my head in a different way than anybody else. She said, if you were sitting on a couch for a year and you had a vision board, the best vision board ever made in the world, sitting beside you, and you looked over at it between every commercial break, she said, at the end of the year, if all you did was look at that great, brilliant vision board, at the end of the year, all you're going to have left besides the vision board is a lump in the couch. That's
so true.
Action and the law of attraction.
Right. I love that. Okay, so tell us about a little bit. You've just mentioned your book called the Book of Why. So tell us a little bit about that and how's that going? You just published that just a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah, so the answer is it's been going fantastic. The technical release date was March 17th. And so interestingly, everything sort of changed because it was released essentially 3 days after the pandemic was announced. So that was interesting. But the one thing that happened before that is the ebook version of it was released shortly before that. And so we did a full launch with the ebook version. And, with great, very humbled, I say that the book reached #1 on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Kobo, #7 on Apple. And it stayed there for 9 days.
Amazing.
So, and then I just heard the news that Morgan James, who's my publisher, they just put a thing out last week saying it was the #2, but in the top 5 best-selling titles of theirs by publication date. So the book's been doing really well considering. That's what I would say.
Congratulations, Corey. That's neat. Now, I would say the few things that you've given us today are invaluable. These are great tools. I love the idea of not, the law of attraction always, I think you identified why it bothered me. It's because there was not the law of action with it. So you've given my audience some fabulous tools to continue on this path to find their passion. And what I'd like you to tell us is, let us know, because we only have a few minutes left, how the audience can get a hold of you and the free gift that you are offering them today.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. So I'll say that if people want to get more info about the Book of Why and How, I forgot to mention that it has the and how in there because the how is just as important as the why, of course. But that is at thebookofwhy.com. So if they want to get more info there, and if you go there, what's really interesting is if you open it up on Amazon, it actually lists how you, on the first page of the book, how you can get the audiobook for free, even if you didn't buy the book. I shouldn't share that, but you can get the free audiobook that way. But I also want to give a free gift for those that maybe think that communicating on stages or communicating in general could be their why or their calling. So the book Public Speaking is as a gift I would like to give your listeners, and they can find it at thebookofpublicspeaking.com. And then finally, if you want to reach out to me further, my website is thatspeakerguy.com, and all my social handles and TED Talks and all that kind of stuff are there for people to see.
Wow, that is generous. Thank you. And I want to thank you for coming in today, because this has been invaluable. I really believe that there are some people out there that are going to take your advice and sit down there with that list and start writing their list to find their passion today. And I encourage you out there to get a hold of Corey if you need some more input. And all of what I love, Corey, is all your websites are so easy to remember, like you said. And so you think in, I love how you think, because it's very logical. It makes sense to my brain, and it's easy to capture what you're talking about. So I appreciate that for my audience today. And I have one more question to you. What is the legacy that you would like to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered, Corey, by your family and your friends?
I really think it comes back to what my personal mission statement is. So my personal mission statement is to be the guy who motivates, donates, inspires, educates, and entertains. And why I'm doing that is to create a positive ripple in other people's lives. And that could be one person's life. That could be one action, one moment. So I just hope people would remember me as somebody who cared enough to want to positively impact somebody else's life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for coming in today, Corey. And so I'll encourage my audience to go to his website and find out a little bit more, because we all have a passion, I believe, inside of us. And it's important that we find out before it's too late. So I want to thank you for coming in today, Corey. I appreciate you, and best of luck on that book, because that sounds exciting. I'm going to look it up right after the next show. So remember out there, it is never too late. It's never too late to lose weight. It is never too late to follow your dreams. Find your passion. But this I want you to remember out there. Every day passes, and like Corey said, only 5% of people find their passion. How sad is that? But you have the opportunity, with the tips and tools that Corey provided for you today, to find your passion. And that is our hope for you today. Corey and I would want you to find your passion, because together we can make a difference in this world. This world needs our voice, this world needs Corey's voice, and this world needs your voice. Remember, it is never too late, ever. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. My pleasure. And thank you so much for making it possible.
Okay. Talk to you soon.